Why don't you, now's probably a good time to give us an overview for the listeners. Why don't you, talk about your nonprofit, talk about Indigo Education. I guess it's two different entities maybe, or whatever nice overview you want to give us the overview as the company stands today. Go for it.
Yeah, so the Indigo Education Company, what we do is we do college and career readiness and social emotional learning with mostly high schools. And we're in 26 states and about 200 high schools around the country. And we really help the people in the schools to focus on the students, right? That intrinsic that I was talking about earlier. We really believe if you know who the students are and the students know who they are, not only do they do better academically, but they do better in life and they can make better decisions. And it's very, very empowering that way. So that's really what Indigo Education Company does. And then the nonprofit side has done a lot of really interesting projects that take the education side and expand it to economic development in a community. And so really, how do you help communities recognize their strengths and know who they are, and then create entrepreneurial ventures or bring in technology jobs or things like that to really help them grow. So out of that has come out of Indigo Pathway, which is our newest project that we're launching this month.
I was going to say, okay, I don't see that on your LinkedIn profile. So that's about to launch. Oh, perfect time for you to be on the show then. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to Indigo Education then. Let me ask you some questions. So your target or your client or your customer, however you refer to them, is a school district, a school system. How do you identify your target?
Yeah, we can certainly work with whole districts, and we do work with some medium-sized districts, but mostly we work with individual schools that have the readiness for the kind of intensive work that Indigo is. Indigo is not a check your box kind of program. It's a real deep program that everyone needs to be invested in and involved in, and you have to change the mindset around what's really important in a school. And so we usually work with alternative schools, charter schools, schools that have new approaches to teaching and learning. Those are really good fits for us.
Gotcha. And they also have the money for it versus public system. I'm thinking, I don't know how that works.
So it's almost all public. We only have 2 private schools.
Okay.
We work with public schools, but we work with the segments in the public schools that have the desire and readiness to go deeper instead of trying to work with everybody. Not that we wouldn't work with everybody.
Okay.
But we tend to work with the teachers in the schools that most would get the most out of our services.
And how does it work? Does every student take it? Is it like a voluntary thing? How does that work? The school signs up for it.
Yeah, so usually every student in the school or in a grade takes it, and all the teachers too. And that's something that's really different about Indigo. We don't feel like you do things to children, right? We're all learning, we're all evolving. So we do things with children, right? So if I'm a teacher and I need to be self-aware in order to help the students also be self-aware. So they take the assessment, it takes about 45 minutes. And then they usually embed the results of the assessment, which is a DISC profile is one of the assessments we use. You've probably heard of DISC. It's very common in the corporate world.
Yep.
So we have a DISC profile, a motivator profile, a soft skill profile, and a social emotional learning profile, which is kind of like how you think about yourself and the external world. And so once you know that about yourself and the students, we have a whole bunch of activities and online courses and different ways that the students can apply that to their own learning, and the ways that the teachers can modify and personalize their learning to really meet the needs of each individual student.
So there's an assessment that gives you the score and everything. It tells you, helps you understand who you are. And then there's exercises and follow-up afterwards.
Exactly. And then there's a educator dashboard where they can get the access to the students and get recommendations on how to best support each student.
Very good. What's the business model? Is it by user? Is it number of students? How do you charge?
We charge by student.
By student, one-time deal or
every year.
Oh, I see. It's once a year. Okay. Very good. All right. All right. So your goal is to get them to sign a long-term contract.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, very good. And do you have? I mean, it sounds unique. I've never heard this for students before. Are there competitors knocking on these school doors too?
So there's tons of assessments for students, and the realm of assessment's a hard word, right? Because in corporate world, we know what an assessment is. It's a personality assessment, it's a hiring assessment. But in the education world, there's like all these different, cognitive assessments, and we would be in the non-cognitive.
Right.
We're a
Okay.
non-cognitive assessment. It's not about if you can do math or if you
Right.
have vocabulary skills.
Right.
It's about who you are, how do you communicate, what motivates you, are you really good at leadership, or are you creative? So that's more of the type of assessment we use.
Okay, very good.
So
How
we're
do
the
you
most
measure?
comprehensive assessment in education.
Okay. How are you measuring
Mhm.
success? Like what is success for you?
So success for us is really changing people's lives. So when
Okay.
we get testimonials, which we have tons on our YouTube channel from teachers that say, wow, that kid, like I thought that kid was a terror, but I really found out they were an entrepreneur. And when I started treating them as a leader and as an entrepreneur, and they completely turned around and now they're a leader in my classroom, like that to me is success. Or when a kid comes to me in tears, which has happened so many times I can't even count, and say, wow, that assessment really validated who I was. And I used to be ashamed of who I was because it didn't fit in the traditional education system. And now I know who I was has purpose. Like, to me, that's success. Now, what's difficult about that is that's difficult to measure.
Yeah.
And so that's been a big challenge for us.
Yeah, but still, I mean, testimonials are pretty powerful, right? You get enough of them. That's huge. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Tell me about tell me a little bit more about the nonprofit. So it's launching this. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the nonprofit's been a lot of really interesting projects. We've done a lot of work on the Navajo Nation and some really cool work in rural Mississippi. But what I want to focus on is Indigo Pathway, because Indigo Pathway is a short version of our assessment. So it's only 10 minutes. It's live right now. If you want to, we've had a lot of people testing it. It's called indigopathway.com.
Okay.
And it's a 10-minute version of our assessment that has a disc and a motivators component. And it gives you highly personalized feedback on you. So this is run by an AI expert engine. So the results are highly customized. Whereas like if you take StrengthsFinders, there's 34 possible results. If you take Myers-Briggs, there's 16 possible results. But we have over 1,000 possible results because people are very, very unique. And so you get this highly customized, personalized information on you, tips on what to look for in jobs, how to find jobs, based again on your own decision-making matrix based on you. And then we actually have career matches, and all of the career matches on Indigo Pathway do not require a four-year degree, because we're really appealing to folks who are unemployed, single parents, people who really don't have time to go back to school and invest 4 years and tons of money into a new career.
Do you have to pay for this when you go to indigopathways.com? Is it free?
It's completely free.
Wow. Okay. Very good. All right. And you've had to raise cash for this nonprofit. Back to raising cash.
Yeah. Yeah. That's totally different though. Philanthropy. We actually just hired a grant writing company here in Denver to help us to raise funding for Indigo Pathway, but we were able to utilize some of the PPP funds and some funds from Indigo Education and volunteer time to put it up and make it live and free to everyone right now.
Why'd you do this with the nonprofit? What led you down that path? I mean, you're busy enough running Indigo Education, aren't you?
I know. That's why I'm not a good fit for anyone. It's interesting. I've been trying to figure this out, right? It's a good question. I think really at first it was because we had this school that really, really wanted to use Indigo, and they didn't have the money, and we needed to create a nonprofit to get the grant to get them to use it. And then we had this nonprofit, and then we started doing things with it. I think for me, the real answer is, I think that for a lot of people like myself who are social entrepreneurs, or even you could go as far as spiritual entrepreneurs, people who are doing businesses to try to elevate the consciousness of humanity, the for-profit and the nonprofit, neither one really fit us. And so it's like having a hybrid model. We're trying to figure out how to fit into the ecosystem. And because there isn't a place in the ecosystem for spiritual entrepreneurs, a lot of us have hybrid models because we're trying to figure out how to make it work, because we care about doing the work, and like however the money comes by doing the work, that's fine. But there isn't a lane defined for folks like us yet.
Gotcha. Okay, very good. How many employees you got?
So I've got 6 full-time employees and about 6 part-time employees.
Well, not only are you an entrepreneur, but now you've had to teach yourself how to be a CEO.
Yeah.
If you think today's tip or guest interview can help someone you know, please share this with them. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. The Riderflex Podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviewing. You can visit riderflex.com to learn more about us and get information and pricing on the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great day.